What if a voice you never saw could reach into your soul and whisper the secrets you never told anyone? Emily sat alone in her room, the glow of her small bedside lamp casting long shadows on the wall. The world outside was quiet, but inside her heart, storms never seemed to rest. For weeks, she had been tuning into a late-night podcast and anonymous voice that spoke like poetry, weaving stories of love, loss, and secrets buried too deep. But tonight, something felt different. The man's voice, calm, steady, yet strangely intimate, spoke words that pierced her chest. Sometimes the pain you hide isn't because you're weak, the voice said softly. It's because you're too strong for this world to notice. Emily froze. It sounded like he was speaking directly to her, as if he had seen the very pages of her hidden diary. Her fingers trembled on the edge of her notebook. No one knew the words she had scribbled there in the dead of night. No one had ever heard the cries she had swallowed behind her smile. And yet, here was a stranger's voice, knowing her in ways no one else ever had. Emily pressed the headphones tighter against her ears. For the first time in years, she felt seen by a man she had never met. The next night, Emily couldn't wait for the clock to strike 11. That was when the mysterious voice always came alive within, as he introduced himself only once in passing, though she wasn't sure if it was his real name. She sat cross-legged on her bed, laptop open, headphones plugged in. The familiar hum of static filled the silence. Then the voice returned, deep, velvety, and warm, like it carried the weight of hidden worlds. "Have you ever wondered," Ethan said, "why some people hear your silence better than your words?" Emily's heart skipped a beat. That single question was a mirror reflecting her soul. All her life, she had been surrounded by people who heard her laugh, but never her quiet cries. Yet this stranger, across the distance of unseen wires and frequencies, seemed to pull her heart open with nothing but sound. She leaned back against her pillow, whispering to herself, "Who are you, Ethan?" As the episode unfolded, she noticed something uncanny. The details in his monologue, the way he described sleepless nights, the exact kind of fear that tightened your chest when you didn't know why, the lonely walks under dim streetlights. These weren't just general truths. They were her truths. It was as though Ethan had been beside her, watching silently, carrying pieces of her life in his pocket. The thought sent shivers racing down her arms. When the episode ended, Emily didn't close her laptop. She sat there, stunned, her lips parted as if she wanted to respond. She wanted to say, "Yes, I know what you mean. Yes, I feel that too." But all she had was silence. All she had was his voice slipping away as the night deepened, leaving her with questions that made it impossible to sleep. And for the first time in years, Emily longed for tomorrow, just so she could hear him again. Days turned into a rhythm Emily hadn't known before. Work in the day, silence in the evening, and then at night the voice. Ethan's words became the compass of her nights, pulling her through hours that once felt unbearable. But something inside her began to shift. She wasn't just listening anymore. She was waiting. Waiting for the parts that felt like confessions, like secrets meant only for her. One night, his voice lingered after a pause. "We all carry stories no one else knows. Maybe that's why I speak here, to you, whoever you are. Maybe you'll understand what I can't say out loud." Emily's breath caught. The way he said to you felt deliberate, as though he was speaking straight through the microphone, through the airwaves, through the screen into her. She whispered almost instinctively, "I do understand." Her heart pounded at her own response. She felt ridiculous talking back to a recording, but it didn't stop her. With every word he spoke, she found herself answering as if they were locked in a secret conversation only she knew about. And then it happened. One line made her blood run cold. Ethan spoke softly. Sometimes you cry into your notebook because you, Don T, want the world to hear your breaking heart. Emily's hands flew to her mouth. That was her. That was exactly what she did. How could he know that? Her diary, hidden under her mattress, was filled with tear-stained words no one had ever seen. Not even her closest friend. Yet here it was, spoken aloud by a stranger who shouldn't have known. She slammed the laptop shut, her breath ragged, fear and fascination warring in her chest. Was this a coincidence? Or was there something more, something terrifying about the voice that knew her secrets? Emily barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard his words echoing. You cry into your notebook? It wasn't random. It wasn't something he could have guessed. By morning, she convinced herself there had to be a logical explanation. Maybe his words were general. Maybe thousands of people did the same thing. The following evening, she hesitated. Should she listen again? Or was she walking into something she couldn't control? Yet her curiosity was stronger than her fear. By 11 o'clock, she was back on her bed, headphones trembling in her hands. The voice returned, smooth and steady. I don't know your name, Ethan said, but I know your silence. I know the weight you carry. And I know you've been listening. Emily gasped, clutching the fabric of her blanket. This wasn't a recording, this was live. He was speaking now. And somehow, he knew she was there. She whispered shakily, How? How do you know? Her voice was small, but her heart thundered. Ethan's voice deepened, as if he leaned closer to the mic. Because your secrets, they've always been mine too. Emily froze. She didn't understand. How could her hidden scars belong to him? The line blurred between fear and an inexplicable pull toward him. She should have ripped the headphones off, but instead, she stayed, unable to move, unable to stop listening. The night stretched on, and Emily realized one thing with frightening clarity. The more she heard him, the less she wanted to escape. The days that followed were unlike anything Emily had ever known. She lived for the nights, when Ethan's voice would return, weaving through her headphones like a secret melody. Each time his words grew more personal, more intimate, like he wasn't speaking to an audience at all, but only to her. One night, as the city outside drowned in rain, his voice came softer than usual. She sat bolt upright. He had said her name. Not once in all those nights had she ever told him who she was. There it was, spoken with certainty, as if he had always known. And her throat tightened. How do you know my name? She whispered, forgetting she wasn't supposed to be able to talk to him. Ethan chuckled faintly on the other end, the kind of sound that sent a shiver down her spine. Because it's written in the same silence I carry. Because every secret you've written, I've read before. Her heart raced. It didn't make sense, and yet it did. Could he have somehow found her journal? Had he been watching her? The thought was terrifying, but instead of pulling away, Emily felt herself leaning in. I don't understand, she whispered. You will, Ethan replied. But for now, just listen. Your heart has been speaking to me long before your voice ever will. Emily closed her eyes. Her fear should have been stronger than her longing, but it wasn't. The mystery was too deep, his voice too magnetic. Against every instinct of logic, she let his words sink into her soul. And for the first time, she wondered, was this fate? Or something far more dangerous? Emily couldn't focus on anything anymore. At work, her mind drifted. In conversations, she smiled absent-mindedly. Nights consumed her thoughts, and the voice consumed her soul. Every word Ethan spoke left an imprint, like invisible ink glowing only in her heart. But the fear gnawed at her too. How could he know so much about her? Was she losing herself to a fantasy, or was there a truth she wasn't ready to face? The next night, she pressed play again. The rain outside had stopped, but inside her chest, storms raged louder than ever. Ethan's voice filled the silence. Do you believe in connections written before we even meet? That maybe, just maybe, someone out there already carries the half of your story you've been missing? Her chest tightened. Yes, she wanted to shout. She felt it in her bones, that pull, that impossible sense that they were already entangled long before the first word. Ethan continued, slower this time. Emily, you don't know me yet, but I've always known you. Your handwriting, to your midnight tears. The way you keep your pain between the pages of a notebook no one else has touched. Emily's breath caught. Her notebook. He was describing it again. The exact way she lived with her pain. She finally found her voice, whispering, how do you know all this? Who are you? There was a pause. For the first time, the voice she trusted faltered. Then quietly, Ethan said, because your secrets are mine too. Because once long ago I was there when you thought no one saw you. Emily's skin tingled. The line between stranger and soulmate blurred even more. And for the first time, she wasn't sure if she was falling in love with Ethan, or with the mystery of how he knew her soul so completely. Emily's hands wouldn't stop shaking as she clutched her headphones. The words echoed through her. Once, long ago, I was there when you thought no one saw you. Her mind reeled back through memories she had buried. Childhood evenings spent sitting alone in the park, sketching in her diary. The nights she cried silently in her room, hoping no one in the house would hear. The faces that passed by her lifelike shadows. Could Ethan have been one of them? The next evening, she couldn't wait until 11. She opened the stream earlier, her heart desperate for answers. The static lingered until finally his voice appeared, calm but edged with something heavier. Emily, Ethan said, you've been searching for me. I feel it in the way you breathe, the way you linger in silence when my words end. You want to know who I am? Yes, she whispered aloud, unable to hold back. Please, just tell me. There was a pause long enough to make her heartbeat thunder. Then Ethan spoke, slowly, deliberately. When you were 12, you wrote a letter and buried it beneath the old oak tree behind your grandmother's house. A letter you thought no one ever found, but I did. I was the boy who lived next door, the boy who never had the courage to speak to you, till now. Emily's eyes widened, tears flooding them instantly. The memory crashed back the letter she had written in a moment of loneliness, telling the earth her secrets, her dreams, her wish that someone, anyone, would understand her. Her lips trembled. That was you? Yes, Ethan's voice softened. I kept that promise, Emily. I told myself I'd find you again one day, and that when I did, I'd speak the words you once wrote. That's why my voice knows your secrets, because they were mine the moment I read them. The world tilted. Every fear, every doubt, every pull she had felt suddenly made sense. Emily wasn't just listening to a stranger. She was listening to the echo of her own past. Emily couldn't breathe. The revelation shook her to her core. All this time, the voice that had haunted and comforted her nights wasn't a stranger. It was a ghost from her own past. Her childhood memories blurred with the present as Ethan's words sank deeper. The boy next door, the one who had disappeared without goodbye, the one she thought had never noticed her. But he had. He had seen her pain, her loneliness, and he had carried it with him. Why now? Emily's voice cracked through the quiet room. Why did you wait so long to tell me? But on the other side, Ethan sighed, the weight of years pressing into every breath. Because I wasn't ready. I thought I had to become someone worthy before I could come back. But the truth is, I never stopped hearing your silence, Emily. And I couldn't live with myself if I didn't keep the promise I made that night under the oak tree. Tears streamed down her face. For years, she had begged the universe for someone to understand her, someone to see her without her needing to speak. And now that someone was here, his voice wrapping around her like a long-forgotten embrace. Emily, Ethan whispered, his voice trembling now. I don't want to just be the voice you hear at night. I want to be the man who stands beside you in the daylight. Will you let me? Her heart pounded. Logic screamed at her to be careful, to slow down, to question. But her soul knew the answer long before her lips formed the words. Yes, she breathed. Yes, Ethan, I'll let you. Silence lingered for a moment, beautiful, heavy silence. Then, for the first time, she didn't just hear his voice through the headphones. She heard the faint sound of footsteps, of a door closing, of someone moving closer. Her breath caught. Ethan. The stream crackled, and then his voice, no longer distant, but near, so near it felt like he was in the room. I told you, Emily, he said softly. Your secrets were mine too, and I was always closer than you thought. And as the night wrapped around them, Emily realized she hadn't fallen in love with a voice. She had fallen in love with the soul that had been carrying her story all along.